They didn't wear crowns or led armies into battle, yet these 10 individuals wielded more power than most kings ever dreamed of. Through innovation, ambition, ruthlessness, and sheer intellect, they reshaped money, markets, economies, and the very rules of wealth itself. Their decisions still echo today in your bank account, your investments, your retirement plan, and the global economy that touches every corner of the planet. Here are the top 10 most influential financial figures in history, ranked by their lasting impact on the systems we use every day. The Medici family. We begin in the 15th century Florence, the cradle of the Renaissance, where one family laid the groundwork for modern banking. Giovanni di Bicci started a modest banking operation in 1397, but his son Cosimo transformed it into Europe's dominant financial powerhouse. The Medicis pioneered double-entry bookkeeping, the accounting system that tracks debits and credits with precision, and is still the standard worldwide. They financed popes, kings, and wars, extended credit across borders, and used their wealth to patronize the arts. Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and Brunelleschi all owed their greatest works to Medici gold. By controlling the papal finances and influencing elections, they essentially ran much of Italy. Cosimo once declared, "Money is a sixth sense, without which you cannot make a complete use of the other five." Their legacy endures in the institutions of global finance and the idea that wealth can shape culture and politics. The Rothschild family. In the late 18th and 19th centuries, another dynasty rose to eclipse even the Medicis in international reach. Mayer Amschel Rothschild, a coin dealer in Frankfurt's Jewish ghetto, sent his 5 sons to establish banking houses in the major capitals: Nathan in London, James in Paris, Salomon in Vienna, Karl in Naples, and Amschel staying in Frankfurt. Their motto? Concordia, Integritas, Industria. Unity, integrity, industry. They created the first truly multinational banking network, financing governments during the Napoleonic Wars and profiting from rapid information flows. Nathan Rothschild's legendary move after Waterloo, buying British government bonds before news of victory spread, netted immense profits and demonstrated the power of superior intelligence in markets. By the mid-1800s, the Rothschilds were so influential that a French prime minister remarked there were 6 great powers in Europe: England, France, Russia, Austria, Prussia, and the Rothschilds. Their model of family-controlled cross-border finance set the template for global investment banking. Crossing the Atlantic to the Gilded Age, no figure dominated American finance like John Pierpont Morgan. Born into wealth but driven by iron will, J.P. Morgan became the architect of industrial consolidation. In 1901, he engineered the merger that created U.S. Steel, the world's first billion-dollar corporation, combining Andrew Carnegie's steel empire with others. During the Panic of 1907, when banks failed and the stock market crashed, Morgan locked bankers in his library overnight, forcing them to pledge millions to stabilize the system, effectively acting as a one-man central bank before the Federal Reserve existed. Presidents consulted him. Critics called him a monopolist, yet his interventions prevented deeper depressions. Morgan's legacy lives on in J.P. Morgan Chase, one of the largest banks today, and in the very structure of Wall Street mergers and crisis response. Parallel to Morgan's era, John D. Rockefeller built an empire not on banking, but on controlling the lifeblood of industry: oil. Founding Standard Oil in 1870, Rockefeller used ruthless tactics, secret railroad rebates, predatory pricing, and vertical integration to capture 90% of U.S. oil refining by the 1880s. He became America's first billionaire and, adjusted for inflation, one of the richest people ever. But Rockefeller's influence extends beyond wealth. After the antitrust breakup of Standard Oil, he pivoted to philanthropy, donating hundreds of millions to eradicate hookworm, establish the University of Chicago, fund medical research, and create the Rockefeller Foundation. He proved that immense fortune could be wielded for systemic good, shaping modern philanthropy and corporate responsibility. Benjamin Graham. Shifting to the intellectual foundations of investing, Benjamin Graham emerged in the 1930s as the father of value investing. A Columbia professor scarred by the 1929 crash, Graham co-authored Security Analysis in 1934 and The Intelligent Investor in 1949, books that treated stocks as businesses, not casino chips. His core principle, the margin of safety, buy assets worth far more than you pay, focusing on intrinsic value, balance sheets, and dividends rather than speculation. Graham mentored a generation, including his most famous student. His disciplined, rational approach turned chaotic markets into a science and remains the Bible for long-term investors worldwide. Warren Buffett. One of Graham's disciples took those principles to legendary heights. Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha. Starting young, Buffett bought his first stock at 11 and partnered with Graham early on. In 1965, he gained control of Berkshire Hathaway, a failing textile mill, and transformed it into a massive conglomerate, holding companies like Coca-Cola, Apple, and Geico. Buffett's strategy, buy wonderful businesses at fair prices, hold forever, compound relentlessly, has delivered annualized returns of about 20% over decades, turning Berkshire into one of the most valuable companies ever. Living modestly in the same house since 1958 and eating cheap breakfasts, Buffett preaches patience, simplicity, and avoiding permanent loss of capital. His annual letters are studied like scripture, influencing millions of investors. George Soros. For high-stakes global bets, few match George Soros. Born in Hungary and surviving Nazi occupation, Soros built the Quantum Fund into a powerhouse. His most famous trade came in 1992, shorting the overvalued British pound within the European exchange rate mechanism. On Black Wednesday, September 16, the Bank of England raised rates desperately but failed. Soros profited over $1 billion in a day, earning the nickname the man who broke the Bank of England. His macro approach, betting on economic trends, currencies, and crises, redefined hedge funds. Soros also used his wealth for philanthropy through the Open Society Foundations, promoting democracy worldwide. Ray Dalio. In the modern era, Ray Dalio stands out for systematizing success at scale. Founding Bridgewater Associates in 1975 from his apartment, Dalio grew it into the world's largest hedge fund, managing hundreds of billions. He pioneered radical transparency, recording meetings, encouraging brutal honesty, and codifying decisions into principles. His economic machine framework explains debt cycles, productivity, and markets in clear terms. Bridgewater's all-weather portfolio thrives in any environment. Dalio's books, like Principles, have influenced leaders across finance and business, proving that culture and systems can outperform intuition alone. Alexander Hamilton. Going back to the birth of the United States, Alexander Hamilton shaped the very foundation of American finance. As the first Secretary of the Treasury under George Washington, he established the national banking system, created the first bank of the United States, assumed state debts to build federal credit, and introduced tariffs and excise taxes to fund the young government. His vision of a strong central bank and manufacturing economy laid the groundwork for U.S. economic dominance. Hamilton's report on manufacturers and his push for public credit influenced central banking worldwide, including the eventual Federal Reserve. Rounding out the list is Jesse Livermore, the legendary speculator whose life embodied the highs and lows of trading. Active in the early 20th century, Livermore made and lost several fortunes, most famously shorting the market during the 1929 crash to amass around $100 million. Known as the Great Bear of Wall Street, he pioneered technical analysis, tape reading, and momentum trading, ideas that influenced generations of traders. Though he died broke in 1940, his book Reminiscences of a Stock Operator remains a classic on market psychology and risk management. These 10 titans, from the Medici ledgers to Livermore's bold trades, didn't just amass fortunes. They invented tools, survived panics, broke systems, and rebuilt them stronger. They taught us that finance isn't luck. It's vision, discipline, risk, and timing. Their stories remind us that money is neutral. Its power depends on who controls it and why. The next chapter of finance is being written right now. Perhaps one day, your name will join this list. The story of money never ends. See you next time on Finance 2.0.